The U.S. has joined the UN in wading into Lebanon's political crisis, calling for stability after the shock resignation of Prime Minister Saad Hariri. Hariri announced he was stepping down while he was in Riyadh last Saturday, blaming interference from Iran and its Lebanese ally Hezbollah. But Hezbollah's leader says Hariri quit under duress. Hassan Nasrallah is accusing Saudi Arabia of detaining Hariri and not letting him return home. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has cautioned all sides to respect Lebanon's integrity and independence, warning regional powers against using it as a venue for proxy conflicts. And the UN Secretary General is warning that a new conflict in the region could have devastating consequences. All this as citizens of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Bahrain begin to leave Lebanon after being encouraged to do so by their governments. Zaina Khoda reports from Beirut.
Citizens of Saudi Arabia and its Gulf allies visiting or living in Lebanon are leaving. It's not the first time Gulf countries tell their citizens it is not safe to stay. Lebanon has long been entangled in the Saudi-Iranian power struggle across the region. But the latest warning heightens tensions after the resignation of Lebanon's Prime Minister, Saad Hariri. But alongside the tensions, there are growing signs of Lebanese unity in what many see as Saudi interference in their country. Saturday's resignation was sudden, raising concerns about the circumstances behind the decision. There is also concern about Hariri's freedom of movement. He may have been seen since he made the announcement in Riyadh, but the Prime Minister hasn't made any more statements. Lebanon's President Michel Aoun believes Hariri is under house arrest. He told Saudi Arabia Chargé d'Affaires in Beirut Walid Bukhari that the circumstances of the resignation are unacceptable and Hariri should return immediately. Hariri's own political party made a similar demand. They didn't just suggest the Prime Minister is being held against his will, but expressed concern that Lebanon's Sunni community could be marginalized even further.
They are concerned and disenfranchised and disappointed by Hezbollah controlling their government and controlling their destiny. On the other hand, today they are concerned about their Hariri as a Sunni leader. So this is why yesterday they asked that Hariri return should be a priority.
Lebanon is a deeply divided country. There is a pro-Saudi camp led by Hariri, which has long accused Hezbollah of imposing Iran's agenda here. There is a pro-Iran camp led by Hezbollah, which has long resisted demands to disarm and to withdraw its troops fighting alongside the Syrian government. But even Hezbollah has added its voice to demands for Hariri to return, reiterating the belief that the Prime Minister is being held against his will.
We, Hezbollah, and we, all the Lebanese, take this as an offence, and any offence to the Lebanese Prime Minister is an offence to all the Lebanese, even if he is our political adversary.
Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah was careful to avoid political escalation. Instead, he accused Saudi Arabia of wanting to impose a new leadership in Lebanon and start a war. He called on the Lebanese to avoid provocation and to stay away from the streets. The political divide hasn't gone away, but for now at least, politicians are putting it aside. There is a rare consensus for the need to unite at what many describe as dangerous times. Zaina Khoda, Al Jazeera, Beirut.
Well, as we said earlier, the U.S. is urging all parties to respect Lebanon's sovereignty. This, while other world leaders look on with increasing alarm. State Department correspondent Patty Culhane reports from Washington.
It's the one question swirling around the world's capitals. What is going on with Lebanese Prime Minister Saad Hariri? He resigned his post while in Saudi Arabia. Does he want to be there, or is he being held against his will? The French weighed in.
I think you should ask him this. We simply note that he resigned. He traveled to Abu Dhabi on the eve of President Macron's visit. So we think he is free in his movements, and it is up to him to make his choices.
At the U.S. State Department Thursday, the answer was less clear.
We have seen him. In terms of the conditions of him being held or the conversations between Saudi Arabia and Prime Minister Hariri, I would have to refer you to the government of Saudi Arabia and also to Mr. Hariri's office.
Sorry, you said the conditions of him being held? Is he in detention?
Well, I'm not going to put that word behind, I'm not going to associate that word with it, but where he is right now.
She went on to say she couldn't even talk about where they met, but her boss is sending a strong statement about what should come next. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson writing that the U.S. respects the Prime Minister and sees him as a strong partner. He went on to warn there is no place in Lebanon for foreign forces, and the U.S. cautions against any party within or outside Lebanon using Lebanon as a venue for proxy conflicts. An obvious message to Saudi Arabia. But his boss, U.S. President Donald Trump, has been more willing in the past to give Saudi Arabia a green light to do what it wants. It remains to be seen if that will apply to Lebanon. But at the United Nations, growing alarm after Saudi ordered its citizens to leave that country.
This is a matter of great concern to us. And what we want is for peace to be preserved in Lebanon. It is essential that no new conflict erupts in the region. It could have devastating consequences.
A critical time for a country wondering what's next for them and their leader. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Ali Al-Ahmed is the director of the Institute for Gulf Affairs in Washington, D.C., and he says Hariri's resignation, as well as the threat of Saudi military or economic action in Lebanon, will affect the whole region.
It was interesting that today, and I think Lebanese people in these conditions kind of unite. Even the Hariri party have issued statement regarding the fate of Saad al-Hariri, who we all know from day one that he resigned against his will, and he's been held against his will in Riyadh. No matter what the Saudis are saying, everybody in the world knows this. But unfortunately, the world, the United Nations, the Americans, even the French president who was in Riyadh yesterday did not raise an eyebrow about it. I think this is going to be very bad for everyone, because this rash measure and the aggressive measure, while we have the war in Yemen, the situation with Qatar, the blockade of Qatar, and we have an instability in the region, adding fuel to fire does not help, really. And I think Mohammed bin Salman is best advised to try to calm down these fronts and focus on the internal issues that he's facing inside Saudi Arabia. Would be best for everyone. Really, there is no benefit. Maybe it's Mohammed bin Salman in his effort to become king is been told by the Americans and the Israelis, if you attack Hezbollah, we will support you, and that could be the measures against Lebanon. Could be basically a gift for Israel to have the support of Mohammed bin Salman.
The UN's told Al Jazeera there's no sign of any aid getting into Yemen, despite its warning that mass starvation could be just weeks away. Saudi Arabia ordered a total closure of Yemeni air, land and seaports earlier this week in response to a missile fired from rebel-held territory in Yemen. An estimated 20 million people are in need of urgent help. The UN says Yemen's stocks of fuel and vaccines will run out soon if ports stay shut.
Over the last 3 days, UNICEF has not been able to send in a single shipment with life-saving supplies. Over the last 3 days, we haven't been able to send in a single staff member to continue the support that is so much needed. Today, we need to tell the world that there are only for 3 weeks vaccines left in Yemen. The blockade needs to be lifted for the sake of boys and girls in Yemen. The blockade needs to be lifted, not tomorrow. The blockade needs to be lifted now. The war on children in Yemen